Hi, my name is Londe Yusuf.
And my name is Reggie Williams.
And we're the co-founders of Black Film Space. Black Film Space is a grassroots organization dedicated to enhancing the skill sets of Black filmmakers and building a community of creatives. We host events such as screenwriting workshops, panels, mixers, and other events that are designed to support Black content creators.
On the next episode of the Black Film Space podcast, we interviewed DeMane Davis. DeMane is a writer, director, and producer who has directed over 60 commercials and who has had both of her indie films shown at Sundance. Most recently, she has directed and produced episodes of Queen Sugar, How to Get Away with Murder, and the new CBS television show The Red Line. We talk with DeMane about prepping for a television shoot, developing trust with actors, and handling creative differences on set. But before we begin the interview, we want to tell you about our next screenwriting workshop, which is on Thursday, May 30th from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Open Box office in Manhattan. Admission is $6, and how it works is we workshop 2 15-page or less screenplays, and we offer constructive criticism and feedback in an open forum. You don't need to submit a script to attend. You don't even need to offer feedback when you attend or be at any level of experience. We just want you to show up, be present, be here, and that's pretty much it. So if you're interested in our screenwriting workshops or any future events, please visit blackfilmspace.com. And now, on to our interview. All right, thank you, DeMane, for joining us on the Black Film Space podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So I just want to start with your career trajectory. I find it really fascinating because you made 2 indie films in the late 90s, early 2000s that got into Sundance. And just looking at your IMDb profile, there's a lot of years where we're not seeing anything on there. But then recently you directed a bunch of episodes of Queen Sugar, How to Get Away with Murder. It's just amazing. So I'm really curious to know like what was going on between that time in regards to your career and, you know, how you feel about, you know, your experience through these past 20 years.
Yeah. So the first film I wrote and directed was Black and White and Red All Over. And that was shot in black and white under $100,000. I wrote the business plan. That was really about Black violence in my community in Boston. And the idea came from my niece and leaving her a note in her bedroom and seeing she wasn't there and seeing photos of her friends on the wall and seeing these funeral programs and realizing that in the past year and a half, she had experienced the loss of 4 friends and hadn't even said anything about it. She was about 16, 17 at the time. And I got really overwhelmed. And at the time I was speaking at a program called Boston Partners in Education, going to inner city schools, talking about different careers in advertising, which is where I got my start as a copywriter. I was like, oh, I'll make a movie. And so that's where that's where everything sort of started. My rationale was being a copywriter, having written commercials and being on set and knowing what everybody does. I, figured, film is a longer commercial. Mm-hmm. It's the same crew. You have sets, you have, actors. And what I did with that film is I had a strategy statement, which is usually what an advertisement has. So strategy statement is the bare bones, no fluff, like, what are you trying to say? Mm-hmm. And what I was trying to say with that first film is if we continue to kill each other, there won't be any Black people left. At the time, my art director partner, Kari Streeter, was like, I want to be involved. And I was like, okay, you can be involved. And then we involved a producer at the agency, and he got us to Mark Hankey to come on as producer to get us the equipment. So as far as New England goes, it was a family affair, and lots of vendors who I'd worked with joined on. They were like, oh, you're going to make a film, we'll give you, this is back in real film days. So they were like, we'll give you this, we'll give you ends, we'll edit, we'll all that kind of stuff. And that, I just wanted to make change. I just wanted I wanted this to stop. I wanted to do something about it. And then we started entering into festivals. Toronto, actually, I got a wonderful response over the phone from a woman who called me rather than just send me a letter or an email and tell me like, I want you to know you didn't get in, but I can't forget your film. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. And have you submitted to Sundance? And I was like, well, I was going to wait. She was like, don't wait, send it now. They're going to remember it. And it got into Sundance.
Wow.
So it got into dramatic competition. It was one of 18 films selected to be in dramatic competition that year. I think that year 800 films were sent. And that really sort of began, a career as a director for me while I was still copywriting, because hustle. And so whenever I wasn't doing that, I was copywriting or freelancing. And then Lift, which was my second feature, that Kerry Washington's first solo feature film, was a script that I had already. And after the film festival experience, Sundance actually called and said, do you want to go to the Sundance Labs? Do you have anything to submit? And I had no idea what that, I thought it was like a weekend in Provo. I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. I don't know who it is. And then learning that was basically, film camp, and getting to meet, Kathy Bates, getting to spend half a day with Denzel Washington, meeting Alan Daviau, who was a director of photography on E.T., and all of these amazing, amazing people, and getting their advice. So, that Lyft eventually was bought by the Showtime network, and Kerry Washington was nominated for a Spirit Award. We were nominated for a Spirit Award. And after that, I got an agent, and things just sort of, nothing really kicked up. There were some offers, some scripts. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? But I really, for me, I want to make something that says something. And that's more popular now, but back then it certainly wasn't. Nobody was thinking about it that much. So that was a little bit of a death knell to say that. I don't think that's the reason why nothing happened. I was given lots of reasons. Well, you live in Boston, you need to move to New York or LA, or, but what I just kept doing was writing other scripts, and writing in other forms and other mediums, and still copywriting. I was like, something will happen at some point. So I just kept writing. And then one day, Ava DuVernay sent me an email over Twitter. She was putting together the writing room for Queen Sugar at the time, actually, and asked me if I had any scripts. I had a couple that I had submitted to the Sundance Episodic Labs, and I fully encourage everyone to submit scripts to the Sundance Labs. They have a directing lab, a writing lab, they have a theater lab. I believe they have a lab for composers now, and they have the episodic TV lab. So, and they're looking for you. They're looking for women. They're looking for people of color. They're looking for women of color. They want to hear your stories, and they want to encourage it. And what happens is, once you get into the labs, they commit to making your script for a year. And so Lyft, they introduced me to James Mangold, who, we sat down with his wife then, Kathy Conrad, and they were both executive producers on it. James Mangold's last film was Logan. Kathy Conrad had produced all the Scream films. They introduced us to Hart Sharp, who did Boys Don't Cry. Kim Pierce was actually my roommate at the labs, and Hart Sharp fronted the just under $3 million to make that movie. So please go to SundanceInstitute.org and look at the labs that they offer, and submit over and over again. So Ava had said, do you have any scripts? And I sent her scripts, and obviously that didn't come to fruition, but she and I stayed in touch. She was doing back then Array Day, where she gets a bunch of filmmakers, and anyone on Twitter can ask them a question. And I got a little half-hour block. The second year that I was doing it, she emailed me and she said, thanks so much for doing this for me. Like, just before I went, I'm like, how does she know them? Like, so timely, right? And I said, yes, anything you want, love and light. Thanks so much. And I was like, and then she sent me a little yellow heart. And I remember being like, all right, you just don't reply to that. You really want to reply, don't reply. Just leave it alone. Let it lay. Stop. Just chill. And then literally the next day, Paul Garnes, producer on Selma and producer of Queen Sugar, called me and was like, did Ava call you? I was like, no. Oh, yeah, she wants you to direct episode 206, Queen Sugar. And that was it. Like, I have not stopped working since then because of her mission.
Yeah. That's so dope. So at what point did you start directing commercials?
Commercials came, I think, right. I kind of can't remember. They either came shortly before Black and White and Red All Over or just after. I think it might have been just after. I did a lot of commercials for the Department of Public Health's anti-smoking effort, which later became the Truth Campaign, which is, was on MTV and a lot of other places. Did a lot of, that was like primarily what I did. And then did a lot of stuff for like Blue Cross Blue Shield, very early stuff, because their whole campaign was real people. So really developed the look and the style of that. That was before they were doing a lot of real people things. So that client alone, I probably did like 35 commercials. I love working with real people. I think that everybody needs therapy, and I don't think there's any shame in that. And having this sort of like impartial person who doesn't know you kind of look and be like, well, maybe this, maybe that, and that's what I sometimes feel like when I'm talking to a real person, depending on what the subject matter is that I'm that they really needed to talk about this. You know what I mean? And so I really honor that time that they give me, and I want it to be cathartic and fulfilling for them. So worked a lot with real people and some actors, and then of course Kerry Washington, which was incredible. And now Viola Davis, Cicely Tyson. I can't even tell you. Like sometimes I look back on my phone and I'm like, did that really happen? Like I just can't even believe it. It's crazy case.
Yeah, it's amazing. What are some of the differences between directing commercials and directing television, or in your case directing as you reference it, real people, as opposed to directing actors?
It's just time. It's same crew, same cast, but a 60 or 30-second commercial usually films in like 1 to 2 days. And I have the luxury of doing more takes and having more time with each one. And TV is a 1 hour episode needs to be cut to 42 or 44 minutes, regardless of the length of the script. So 1 page of a film or a TV script is 1 minute. I think my How to Get Away with Murder script was 62 pages. So that was over. Yes, it was 62 pages. I might have 58. But the way that Pete Nowak, who's the showrunner, creator of that show, what he likes is he likes to have options. And so he wants to have all the stuff that's on the page. And then you edit to that script. And then he comes in and he cuts after you're done with your cut. So really it's time. I think, TV is faster. It's a lot faster. And then, actors and real people, actors are real people at the end of the day. So it's similar, there's just, they might have bigger trailers, but yeah, but that's when, it also becomes really important in terms of like intent and figuring out what you're trying to say and what you want to do, because your time is limited, the amount of time that you have. Television is generally 2 takes.
Oh wow!
So, yeah. So when I shadowed on Queen Sugar, my first episode in the second season, I was like, 2 takes, huh? And Kat Candler was like, yep. And I went, okay. And it just you just prepare. You over prepare and you over communicate, which it's never a bad thing. And you might technically you might need another take. There might be some wind, or there might be, camera move didn't go right, or an actor will ask for another take and you give it to them, of course. But generally, that's what it is. And then when I've gone to other shows, I've found that generally that's what it is. So, yeah, it's expensive. TV's more expensive than a commercial for sure. That's the other difference.
In regards to working with actors, do you use objectives? Like, do you say, like, I want you to, your objective is to manipulate? Like, what is your process when giving feedback to actors?
I don't say that much. I think, certainly with the experiences I've had recently, these actors are living with these characters a lot longer than I am. And so, my job is to know the show, to have watched, the whole show, the whole season, to maybe make some notes that I would ask the writer and the showrunner about different things, and the AD and all that kind of stuff. But beyond that, when it comes to the actor, I like to give them their space and their time. I like to, it's about blocking. Mm-hmm. And then, generally what I'll say is, I envisioned this and this, and let's just try one. And then that way they get what's in their head out. For me, a rule is you never tell an actor no. You let them show you. And so you let them get it out. And then you see it and you see if you like it. And then you just shape it a little bit. Maybe you pick that up, or maybe or I was, I don't go too deep into, Stanislavski kind of stuff. They know it, it's in their head. Mm-hmm. But I do do this thing, I'm just realizing now, where I'll think of a particular couple of words to say to them, but it's very specific, and it's as brief as possible. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want that time. Me talking to them isn't what we're filming. Mm-hmm. So what I try to do is run in, say a couple of words in their ear if necessary, and then run out, and then let that. It's like, sit with that. Like, let's see what that does, mm-hmm. And then you're just playing, which is great. I love it. I love to just sort of play with them, and they're giving stuff and you're giving stuff. And, I worked with this actor on the Netflix Warner Brothers series, You, recently. She's very young, and she kept going, do you have any notes for me? And I was like, no. And she was like, oh. And I go, no, you're there, dude. It's great. Like, I don't, and so then, like, because she really wanted notes, I would just try to find a little something to give her, just because. And then that was cool too, because you could see how quickly she took it. Like, she's this young woman is going to be a superstar. She's really amazing.
I know you said there's a lot of prep that you do in directing TV. So I know you watch, I'm sure you watch the episodes and read the scripts. What is there any other type of research that goes into prep?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, for Queen Sugar, my first episode, we, Charlie opened up a sugar mill. Mm-hmm. So I was really grateful that Ina Mayhew, the production designer, for the last 3 of the 4 seasons, she had done all the real sugar mill prep. So she had photos. She had been to one before we went and location scouted and stuff. But there were all of these different kinds of machines in there that do different things that I needed to know about, that I had to look up. So the writer might not have all that information. Sometimes a writer will just say, well, yeah, it's happening over here, but you want it to be as accurate as possible. So you've got to research that. That's your responsibility to look it up and to see that, what if this person's going to be messing with this machine, they would never have sleeves like that, because the sleeves will get hooked in the machinery. She's got to wear a jumpsuit, We had a couple of instances where it's like, oh, we want, Charlie's going to wear a ponytail. And I was like, okay, but it's got to be a low ponytail, because she's got to wear a construction helmet. When she's got to wear a helmet when she's on the floor, when she's walking around, even though it's like TV, like you want it to be real. So there are definitely things to look up, to add that, and I try not to get too bogged down with it, but just so I can convey it to the actors and also to the crew, so they kind of know. And that might change your blocking as well, mm-hmm. And blocking changes everything. It changes lighting. It changes your number of setups. It'll change everything.
How did you learn how to block?
So what I like to do is I like to get to set during my prep. I like to be on set when nobody's there, and I like to walk the whole area, and I like to read the lines out loud, mm-hmm. and I like to think about it and sort of feel it, and then based on what I might want to do. So like when I first get the script, I'll look and I'll be like, so with Queen Sugar, you get one crane day, right? So every show is different. Some shows you'll have a crane, you'll have a jib arm, the entire show. Mm-hmm. So you get high, but you can't get that high. Queen Sugar, you want the 70-footer, like that's one day, it's special. But you've got to be discreet with it. What else are you going to shoot on a crane that day? And talk to your AD and figure that out. You know what I mean? Because it's a specialty shot. If it's not going to settle and go into coverage, then that's just a specialty shot. And did you waste that crane day because you didn't use it to shoot anything else? Or is it worth it because it's the end of the episode, because it's this incredible moment, because something's being revealed that hasn't been revealed before? You know what I mean? So you sort of have to gauge like what you're going to do there. So I'll look at the script and I'll be like, ooh, it'd be cool to do this. Or that would be nice, this. Ooh, that's a reveal. I'm going to do this. And then I'll just, when I get to set, I'll walk it and I'll think about it. And then I'll talk it over with my DP. I'm always trying to minimize my number of setups so that I can have more time with the actors and I can do more takes. So it's like, oh, maybe I can do 3 takes today because, this is a oneer, or this is a 1-2. This is a 1-2 camera setup. Or, I'm going to have this camera here and here. I can do a bunch of takes because this is it. These are my setups, So then I generally know what I want, so directing is all about having a plan and then being flexible. So I know what I want, and then the actor will come in and, they'll do their thing. Now, if I need them, I really need them to be in a certain place, I'll suggest it early. And, if they're feeling it, they'll go there. That's cool. But sometimes they'll get in the space. I mean, it's all about them, right? They'll get in the space and maybe they cower in a corner, or maybe they start crying, but they're not looking in the direction with the cameras. And suddenly I look at, Kara Kelly, my DP, or Darren Okada, and I'm like, we really need to be over here. And they'll go, yeah, we really do over there. We can't be over here because look what's happening over here. So it's all about being flexible. But yeah, blocking is extremely important because it's going to get you the images and the visuals that you want, and being efficient with it will get you your day, because the goal is to make the day. The goal is to shoot that number of pages that's set. And every show will have a different goal for them in terms of page count, depending on what's going on. Like you might have a low page count on a show that has a lot of action. Well, that's because there's lots of explosives. We had a big day, Station 19, there's literally explosives. So, you're like, it seems like it's a low page count, but it's not, because the resets are crazy because you're resetting explosive devices. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I think I feel it. So I just walk it. And then when I walk it, I've done it myself. So I find it easier to tell someone else. And then, of course, again, just always leaving room on the day for whatever an actor might come up with, whatever the DP might come up with, something might happen with the weather. When I was producing director on season 3 of Queen Sugar, we had a scene that was supposed to take place out in front of Ralph Angel's house in New Orleans, and we had torrential rain, which absolutely happens in New Orleans. And when it rains, you have lightning, then you have a lightning strike, then you have to wait a half an hour so that there's no more lightning strikes, because you could get hurt, and all the equipment, everything has to be shut down. So I've been in that house, Ralph Angel's house, a few times where this has happened, where there's just 30 people in there waiting it out, waiting out the lightning strike, waiting out this torrential rain. On this particular day, it's like, you know what, we're never going to be able to get out there and film this. So we changed the whole scene. The director, I believe it was Ioka Chenzira. Yeah, it was. She changed the scene so that it happened in the kitchen. And that's what it's, you got to have a plan, but you have to be flexible. You never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of, okay, let's figure out what else we need, what else has to happen, what else we have to do to, to make this work. And the other thing is, at the end of the day, like, the part about being flexible is important internally, because you don't want to get so married to something that you're holding on to it so tightly, and it's just not a reality anymore. It's like, it's raining, dude, we're never going to get out. It's mud. You know what I mean? Like, it's not happening. We can't be like, but I need it. I want it. It's like, you know who doesn't want it? Whoever made it rain. So we can't, that's not happening right now. So let's all come together and come up with some solutions. Maybe you do this, maybe you do that, maybe you do that, So you have to be like super Buddhist about it, not hold on to it. and problem solve. You have to say, okay, wow, there's construction today. All of a sudden, there was not construction here when we scouted. Now there are construction people and there's a crew that's coming in. So can we look this way? And also can locations go run and ask construction what time they go to lunch? Because maybe that's when we're going to shoot the bulk of our dialogue, you know? But there's tons of stuff you're never going to be able to control. So you can't, you really can't be a control freak.
Yeah.
Because you don't have control. You have control of your little thing, and that's what you can control. You can control, like, oh, instead of 5 setups, I can do this in 3. And that's going to save me, because then that's going to get me, we got to do a move before, just after lunch or before lunch. So that will get me there earlier. And then we'll land, and then I'll rehearse. I can rehearse without, or I can set this up with second team. As long as first team is cool, I'll talk to all the actors. Are you cool if we set this up with second team? Because by the time we move and you land, the wardrobe van gets there and you get blah, blah, blah. And they'll go, yeah, okay, great. Now we are lighting with second team. Now first team comes to set, they're 100%, you're ready to go. As opposed to waiting for first team, rehearse. Now they got to go back to base camp, get clothes on. You're just burning time and money.
What is first and second team?
So first team on Queen Sugar would be Don Leanne Gardner, who plays Charlie. It would be Rutina Wesley, who plays Nova. It would be Kofi Siriboe, who plays Ralph Angel. So those are your actors who are in the roles. And then second team, those are your stand-ins.
Oh, okay. You mean,
so
okay.
Every actor will have a stand-in that you can light with, that you can, do all the camera moves with. You could do a camera rehearsal with. And then you thank second team, and first team comes and you film it.
Okay. I just want to backtrack a little bit, because I'm really curious about, blocking with how you blocked with your feature films. But before, did you make shorts before you made your features?
No.
Wow. Wow. So how did you go into making a feature film with basically no filmmaking experience?
Well, so for me, if I equate, making a commercial as a copywriter with making a film, right? Then it's the same. Like I said, it's the same crew. It's actors. You understand. You see how it works and how it goes, and then I already owned every Spike Lee's first 5 films. Or he does a book for each film. And in those books, there's a journal, there's a budget, and there's the full script. So I read all those. And then I got Robert Rodriguez, Rebel Without a Crew, and, saw El Mariachi, read that, and that was it. I wrote.
That's crazy.
Wrote the script, and, people got on board. But I mean, for me, first film was so personal. I was like, we had an A, B, and C plan. So the A plan is we would get, known actors, and we sought those out once Jim Mangold and Kathy Conrad were involved. We talked to Omar Epps. We talked to, a bunch of different people. The B plan was, we would cast it, just get, local actors to be in it. The C plan is we would act in it ourselves. At that point, that's how. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I was like, this has to happen.
This movie's getting made. Period.
Yeah.
That's so dope. That's so dope. Yeah. I admire that so much. So, you must rely a lot. I know you read these books, but you must rely a lot on your intuition as well, right? Like in order to make movies that get into Sundance and have Ava DuVernay call you, you must rely. Is that something you do rely on?
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, the other thing that I did too is just watch a lot of films. You have to, you have to have an opinion on films. And for me, it can't just be, I don't like it. You know what I mean? To me, that's like, like when I talk to my nieces and nephews, whether they're 3 or 4, and I would always try to introduce them to a new food or a new fruit. I take them out for sushi, or, we go to a neighborhood they've never been to before, just get lost and walk around. They say, I don't like it. And I would say, why? I don't know. I don't like it. And I'd be like, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
You have to explain why you don't like it. And I think it's important with film to know why you like it, why you don't like it, to see what resonates with you. So almost every film I've watched, I have a journal entry for. And films that I really love, I'll break down scene by scene, and I'll write down what's happening, and I'll write down the arc of it, because I really care about it, like On the Waterfront, you know, or Ordinary People, or, you know, something like that. So that was the other thing. That was the other thing that I did. But yeah, beyond that, I think intuition is important in anything that you do. You know, I think you have to trust yourself. And I think that once you know what you want, you're gonna feel it if it's not right. It's important to pay attention to that.
Yeah. Did you understand blocking when you were making your first movie?
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much, yeah. I mean, there wasn't a ton of movement there because it was sort of John Cassavetes style. You know, 6 characters, 1 room. We only had we did 2 rooms. But yeah.
Okay.
And everyone in there, I don't think only one of the actors had been in films or theater before. So, you know, it was a little bit easier to be like, well, I need you to do this, you know?
Okay.
Which is, you could say that, I could say that now, but I wouldn't say it in that way. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say it in that way to, you know, to Boris Kojo, or, you know, so it's all tone.
What other tips would you give to aspiring directors or new directors to improve their craft outside of watching a bunch of films?
I think that, yeah, watching films is good. Having a list of films that you like is good. I think supporting films is really important. I think it's, you know, it's pretty ironic if you make a film and you want everybody to come see it, but you don't actually go see indie films yourself. You know what I mean? Or like you get bootlegs on the corner. You know what I'm saying? My sister, I think it was probably like 3 Christmases ago, was like, "Oh, we got so and so," and I'm like, "What? It's in?" And she goes, "I know you probably don't want to watch it," and I was like, "No, I don't," because because that's just a personal thing for me.
Yeah.
But I pay for movies and I pay for music. Like I don't have Spotify, or I don't have, you know what I mean? Like I have SoundCloud, and if I really like it, I will buy it on iTunes, because I know and respect and understand what it takes to make a movie, or to make an album, or to get up on stage and do a thing. So for me, it feels very odd to just be like, oh yeah, give me all of your music. I mean, people have given me music before, but even still, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel right to me. So I think it's really important to, you know, go see in theaters now Little Woods, which I saw, which was really beautiful, really great film with Tessa Thompson, directed by Mia DaCosta. I need to see it's called Color or something. I can't think of the name of it, but it's not here. It's not in Boston right now. So, but I need to see that. I think reading is also good. There are a couple of great books. There's a book called On Directing by Harold Clurman that Kim Pierce recommended to me that I love. There's a book by Jeff Young about Elia Kazan, who I really love, that filmmaker who did Gentleman's Agreement and On the Waterfront and East of Eden, which is an incredible film. And he takes, it's a chapter per movie, and he just asks some questions about, you know, about every movie. So and then I think it's just like, it's being open. Like you can't, you know, what's the thing in improv? Yes and, right? You're not supposed to say no, you're supposed to say yes and to add on to it. I think you need to be open in life, in your practice, in what you're doing. Another way of saying that is to be flexible, just so that you don't close down some particular thing that was going to be great. You know, a lot of times I've found that, you know, if there's something that I really wanted the most and it didn't happen totally the way that I was going to go, it still worked out. It was still totally fine. You know what I mean? Like you might see something and be like, oh my God, look at her hair. It's on that side. It's like really, it's not like you're totally focused on that, but there's so much else happening. Nobody's looking at that. You know what I mean? Or that's not going to be the thing that makes people go, it was a great movie, but her hair is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, I stopped feeling it once she had, what's that? Cowlick was sticking up. I was like, what is this? I think your cast and your crew are your family for that time that you're with them. So for the, for an episode of TV, whether it's 10 days of filming, 8, 9, some shows are 18 days of filming. If it's a movie and it's 28 days, if it's a season, it's I think it's 150 days, 180 days, something like that. That's your family during that time. And they're doing stuff that you can't do. So there's no reason to yell. There's no reason to like get so angry that you throw something or break something or these are talented craftspeople and artists and skilled technicians who are here to make your vision. That's a gift.
Yeah.
So kindness is super important across the board in life, but certainly on a film set where people are moving lights and doing things there's no way that you can do yourself, and you can't do all things. So just focus on your shit, and it's gonna be fine, and everyone else will focus on theirs, and it'll be beautiful.
Do you feel like as a director and producer that you have to, be like a friend, a boss, a therapist? Like, do you feel like you have to play all these roles?
Yeah, that happens sometimes. I mean, that happens in life, though. I don't think it's exclusive to directing. So I don't think it's an issue, and I think certainly there are different ways to get what it is that you want. But again, speaking of that family, speaking of the unit that you're in and that you're helping to create that culture, right? Because you're not in a vacuum. You know what I mean? If you yell at someone, then someone else starts yelling at somebody else. They're like, oh, this is the way you do it. You walk into a room and you start talking loud, everyone else has to talk loud just so they can have a conversation. So, I think whatever hat that you have to put on at the time, as long as it fits, you look good in it, there's not an issue.
How do you build trust with actors when you're on set?
For the most part, I listen to them, and I watch them during rehearsal. I try to, I'll watch their earlier work. Ideally, I will watch other work, not just their show. And once they've rehearsed, I will tell them what I see and what I think it means, like how they're embodying the emotion, the situation. I like to play with them as much as possible. They're, like the crew, they're doing something I can't. So I respect that. And I also respect the fact that they're in your hands. I want them to know that I'm always going to show them in their best light in terms of the character. I want them to know that there's going to be honesty, and authenticity, and that they're safe. That's a huge word. And I think that there's ways to show that and exhibit that and say that without having to use the word. I would never use a word. I would just say, I understand this, and what are you comfortable doing here? And this is, if you want to do that, that's great. This is what it calls for. That's cool. I'm good with that. There are ways to sort of get there. You might have someone who doesn't want to do something, but you can ask them you ask them to show them. You ask them to show you what they're willing to do. And then once you're in that situation, you can ask again. Do you want to just try? Do you want to try like opening the door? And then maybe they'll try, or maybe not. You know what I mean? But you never know unless you ask, and you have to do that with a sort of gentle confidence, and you also have to be okay if the answer is no. Working with Miss Tyson on How to Get Away with Murder, we reordered scenes, but she didn't get the note. So she wasn't ready for the scene that we were doing. And I said, do you want to just read it? And she was like, nope, I'm not ready. And I said, all right, we're not doing the scene, we're doing the other scene. Mm-hmm. And so, you know what I mean? Like, that's it, you know? Plus she's a queen. She's, you know what I mean? You do whatever she's ready to do. So, you know, there are lots of different variables, you know, certainly working on The Red Line, which premiered just this past Sunday on CBS. It started on the 28th, mm-hmm. and it'll be on until May 19th, 2 episodes every Sunday night. I did the 7th episode. There's weather to contend with, mm-hmm. you know, like you don't really think about that until you're like in Chicago and like shit's frozen. You know what I mean? Like you're frozen and you're like, yo, this is okay. So again, there are those variables that, you know, you're not really sure what's going to happen. So you want to be as sure as possible with the actors. And that's, you know, for me, that doesn't necessarily mean like I meet with them in advance, have lunch, there's no time for that. Nobody has time for that. I do my homework. And so that when I am with them, you know, I explain to them, you know, things about their character that I admire and respect. And then we talk about what the scene's going to be for that day a little bit. And then that's it. Like, I don't belabor it because, again, I want to see it. And I also don't want to do exhaustive rehearsals. Rehearsal in television is 10 minutes, generally. Wow. With the exception of Ray Donovan, which I've heard is an hour. But I want to see it. I like it to be fresh. Mm-hmm. So, you know, sometimes you'll say just the beats, just give me the beats, which means just give me a top line, the movements, where you're going to be, where you are when you say this, so we can get focal lengths and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then let's do marks. You know, let's do half stop. Let's not go all the way 100% and have you really breaking down and crying because now we got to reset all your makeup. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's the day that I got to spend half day I got to spend with Denzel Washington at the Sundance Labs in Utah. I said, what does a good director like say? Like, what have been some of the things, you know, that like a good director says? And he says, good director doesn't say that much. Yeah. Like, oh, okay, cool. I'm with that. This is you know, I mean, if Denzel says that to you, you're like, okay. But again, generally, like these in a television show, you come into a situation. It's the 5th season. It's the 2nd season. It's, you know, the 3rd season. These actors know it. You know what I mean? Like, I just try to make it fun for them. You know, as opposed to like I don't like to impose my will. Yeah. You know, because you're imposing. That's not fun for anybody.
You mentioned how you want to make the actors feel like they feel safe, but you said you don't explicitly use the word. Why is that? Why not?
Because you can't tell someone that they're going to be safe with you. They don't know you. Mm-hmm. You have to show them. You know, that's sort of like I think that'll kick them out. They won't be in it. You know, I think after you get to know me, you know, I still don't have to say it because after you get to know me, you know, like I'm a lockbox. You can trust me. Mm-hmm. You need to tell me how can I help you get there? You know what I mean? Like, how can I help you do whatever it is that you need to do? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just demonstrating it.
So you mentioned that The Red Line just debuted April 28th. Can you talk a little bit more about the show and how you got onto that project?
Yeah. So The Red Line was created by Erica Weiss and Caitlin Parrish, who are from Chicago. They originally had it as a stage play, and then they turned it into a series. And I guess it was at CBS for a while, and then Greg Berlanti, who produces a lot of the DC shows, Supergirl, Arrow, Flash, and also producer on You, which I just worked on, got Ava DuVernay involved. And Ava came in and she brought Kira Kelly. So Kira Kelly, the director of photography on Queen Sugar, did the entire series, 8 episodes. And she brought Emma Yahtzee, who was in her feature film. So she's one of the leads in this. And it's a story of a cop who shoots a guy, and then it's what happens to those two families, and really a third family when you involve Emma Yahtzee, who plays Tia, involve her character in it. So it's about police, it's about brutality, it feels so current, to watch it. It's really crazy. So beautiful, really, really well done. And Ava invited me to direct an episode, and I said, absolutely. So I went to Chicago and did it. It's, Noel Fisher's in it. It's an incredible cast. Michael Patrick Thornton, Aaliyah Royale, who is like so young but so seasoned, Vinny Cheever, and of course Noah Wiley. So it's a great, it's hard to say something that's that emotional and that topical and at times very intense. It's hard to say that it's great, but it's great. It's a great ride. And I think that the thing that it does the most that you don't see is you get to see the two sides of the story. You really get to see, like, well, what does this cop feel like having done this thing, and what's his background and what's going to happen to him, and then, how does his family feel and what are they going to do and what else can they do? And then for me, that turns into what can we do, because it's current, unfortunately. But that's what I love about, what Caitlin and Erica have created, and what Ava always creates, which is it's a place for us to go. It's a mirror, it's a beautiful mirror, even though these are troubling times, and that it can give us something to feel good about, or to feel or to act on. It can motivate us, which I think great art does.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to go back to the points you were making about not being a control freak. Are there any specific examples that you went through where maybe you felt like you wanted to do something one way and then you had creative differences with somebody, and how you worked through that?
I can't really think of anything. Yeah, I don't really hold on to that stuff. And a lot of that stuff is just in the moment, and you're running out of time, or people are tired, or, I think it all works out, and it works out to the point where I don't carry it with me, like there's certainly sometimes I'll look at something and I might say, I should have maybe done another take on that, or it would have been nice to use that particular, but I used to do that a lot more, and I don't do that now as much, I think as far as like resetting when there are creative differences, I think it's good to take a breath, remember that you got to make your day, right? So you might have a 10 or 12 or 14-hour day. Know that in the end, the crew and the cast are there for you, so you have to listen to their suggestions. Like, don't dismiss them outright. And the most important, you just step back and think about what the bare minimum is that you need to tell that particular part of the story that you're filming. And then over communicate what you need, because you're trying to solve a problem. How do you get the camera over the counter to make a move? How long does that take? How important is that? If you make that move, will you have time for everything else? And the people that you might have creative differences with might be the people that are moving that camera, setting that counter, setting your schedule, acting in the piece that you're filming. So you have to listen to them. You have to incorporate their ideas if they work. You have to thank them for those ideas, whether they work or not, and then clearly communicate what you'd like to happen. And then just don't hold on to it. There's really no reason. Like, I think on you, I think there was something where I thought that I should have taken another take to maybe get something a little bit different. But it's a small part of the whole,
Yeah.
And if you shot your coverage correctly, if you don't want to be on that person's face, it's like, I don't have to be on that person's face. You know what I mean? There's like 4 other people in this scene. You know, I could end it this way, I could end it that way, and that's why prepping is important. That's why blocking is important, so that you have the time to do all those different things. That's why asking questions when you go in is important. Like someone like Pete Nowak on How to Get Away with Murder, he prefers options over number of takes. So instead of doing 5 takes of this, he would rather have 2 or 3 takes, but it's a completely different setup. So he has a different way to get in and out of the scene, or he has a way to cut that line, or cut out that whole scene so that you would never know that the scene was there. So it's just knowing that. And then if you come in with respect, you come in with kindness, differences are it's just that someone's been doing this longer than you. How can you not respect that?
Yeah.
And listen to them, and say, thank you. I'd like to try this. If this doesn't work, I literally said that to my AD on you. I said, if this doesn't work in the next 10 minutes, it was something I wanted, a specialty shot. If this doesn't work in the next 10 minutes, I'm good with it. We don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I got another way. I got a plan.
So are you working on any features now? Like what's next for you?
What's next for me is I'm going to be, I think I can say this, I'm going to be producing director on the Madam C.J. Walker story, which is a series that'll be that Netflix and Warner Brothers are producing.
Okay.
And it'll be 4 episodes. Yeah, and then I get to go back to How to Get Away with Murder. They asked me back, so I'll go back to that.
Nice.
It'd be cool. And I'm really hoping to just go down and visit New Orleans and see my Queen Sugar family. Because they're my first family. I love those folks so much. And so the new episode of Queen Sugar begins, new season 4 of Queen Sugar begins on June 12th. And then before that, When They See Us premieres on Netflix on May 31st. So I'm legally bound to tell you that, because that's going to be spectacular. And I'm really excited to see that. And I'm excited for what that series that Ava has done about the Central Park 5, what that will do.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be powerful.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, DeMane, for joining us on the Black Film Space podcast. Really appreciate your insight. Where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me at DeManeDavis.com. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. It's all under my name. So I'm pretty easy to find.
All right. Thank you so much, DeMane. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Black Film Space podcast. If you're interested in being part of our community and attending events, please visit us at blackfilmspace.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Black Film Space. Subscribe to our email list and podcast. Thank you. See you soon.